not one to complain about certain aspects of a game, but since I've already said this particular thing in a few videos already, I feel obligated that I should at least elaborate on why I think this. Student gameplay is boring, and I might even take it a step further and say that it's actually annoying to some extent. Oh damn. Though, I should preface that this video isn't made to hate on FPES, and I do not condone any harassment towards developers or any staff for that matter. Harassing or screaming at the developers isn't going to magically improve the game. Instead, you guys should formulate and create your own ideas on how to improve student gameplay in the comment section down below. Speaking of which, the main point of this video is to discuss the overall issues that the current student gameplay has. I am also aware that a Student Overhaul update is planned, so by extension, I'm also making this video so that they can consider some of the main issues of student gameplay, and I will leave some suggestions in between sections and a main section for possible solutions for some of the issues near the end of the video. Now let's actually start. Let's be clear, you're not playing as a student to have fun, you're playing as a student to have fun as a teacher or Alice. Student is the role that you play as for a good majority of the game, and it can get pretty stale rather quickly. At this point, you can see students just being an elaborate or convoluted waiting list just to become a teacher or Alice. And even then, there's the chance some person with higher chance than you will suddenly appear out of nowhere and steal your waiting spot. To put it simply, the gameplay for playing as a student can easily get repetitive after a few rounds or two, and you'll likely be grinding a specific item in the cafeteria shop just to lose it almost immediately. Your objective as a student, obviously, is to try your best to survive against the teachers. But if you want to do something more than that, then you can collect books or fix the blackout whenever it occurs. Even then, your average gameplay is likely just you repeatedly dying over and over and over again, which is exactly why I classify it as annoying. You can buy items all you want, but once you die, you lose everything you had, like your baseball bat. Though I suppose it's time to go a bit in depth and explain. Students are able to purchase items at the cafeteria shop during daytime. The items of interest for some players will be the baseball bat and the Polaroid camera, but of course we have other items like the Oreo bar for stamina and the health potion for health. The items are decent at what they do and will likely help you to survive if you're not blindly using them. However, it's annoying to get them in the first place, especially if you don't have Star Student or the VIP Game Pass. All it takes is a death from a teacher or Alice and it will all be gone and you'll have to buy them from the shop once again. Now, I don't know about you, but it's not exactly fun to grind back an item that you likely just bought a few minutes ago just to be killed by the failure mode mist circle that has 10,000 kills, probably. The TLDR of this section is pretty much shop items are useful for the most part, but the incentive to buy and use them is exceeded by the fact that you will likely die a few seconds or minutes after buying them. Speaking of buying them, let me talk about points themselves actually. They don't save. Now this makes sense. Yes, we don't want people who have 1000 points switching servers and immediately getting every shop item. At the same time though, this essentially forces you to stay in the same server just so your points don't reset to 0. And well, if you're grinding for one specific item, it will get repetitive since you will eventually die with that item and restart the process once again. It's the same thing over and over and over again. That's not fun either. If you want a guaranteed way to get a lot of points, you literally just need to have one good teacher round, which is not obtained as a student, obviously. Speaking of which, you're probably spending the points on refreshing that one quest that you don't even want in the first place. The only other item that students can currently use are books. An issue with books, however, is literally the fact that everyone is hunting these things down just for defense. Or they want the teacher and Alice chances from getting the book. But just like that, this part of student gameplay is practically non-existent. since books only respawn after like 2 minutes or so. And let's not even mention the fact that while you're doing a test, you're practically a free kill for any teachers that see you. Why? Because you're literally standing still and you can't even properly react to the mist circle that's about to do an 80 damage lunge towards your face. So you either had to remove the book, which is by, completing the test or failing a question, or you die. Although it's most definitely the student's fault if they know a teacher was following them and they do a test. What you're gonna say, like, I got an A plus, teacher? What, you're gonna spare them now because you got an A plus, dude? Oh, okay, local student. It says gullible on the ceiling. I do admit that books are useful when thrown against teachers, since it does stun them for a few seconds. Though, another issue with the books is the fact that there's quite literally no reason to sell them, but, oh, I hear you say, oh, you can sell them for points, 10 points. You will get 1 to 2 books if you're lucky. What am I supposed to do with 10 to 20 points? I'm better off using the book to save my life instead of trying to sell it to this scammer over here. There's no incentive or use in selling the book unless you hoarded all of the books in the last round, aka if you have 10 or more books. That's pretty much all there is to books though. They don't really need any changes other than maybe giving them different quiz stuff other than multiple choice, but that just might be me. Overall, the issue on not getting the book kind of falls on the student once again because you have to be fast and like steal it from the others, I guess. Honestly, this entire section mostly comes across as nitpicking or complaining, but come on now, it's just annoying when people take all of the damn books. Now, I'm not sure how much of a hot take this part might be, but I'm still gonna talk about it since it has been on my mind even before the remastered game had released. Nighttime is 6 minutes. Waiting 6 minutes just for the round to end, not counting blackouts, is boring as hell. I knew I wouldn't enjoy it back then, and I really still don't. Nothing interesting really happens aside from blackouts and the occasional Alice night, which usually means you have an 80% chance of dying, or higher. If you want to get the survivals to get Alice, actually, dying once would mean you have to wait the entire round just to get a few points and, well, no survivals. Why? Because you died. The only thing you can really do during nighttime is survive and hide from teachers, juke teachers, get books, fix blackouts, and, well, once you die, there's no way to defend yourself if you had items other than blocking or at least getting a single book to throw at them. Or literally just slamming a door in the teacher's face while running away because that is somehow so effective, while also hoping that the student that's in the door in front of you that's open doesn't shut the door in your face and result in your death. Gee, I wonder how familiar that sounds. Alright, yeah, if you see Miss Circle preparing her lunge ability, you better hope you have good ping and reaction time because that attack, once again, does 80 damage in your face. Blackouts. I'll keep this section brief. Blackouts is a 50-50 chance event that can occur during the middle of the night, and they also freeze the time entirely. Not to mention the fact that it's dark. Incredibly dark. To the point you actually have to use your flashlight. Oh my fucking god, I can't see shit. I don't even bother fixing the generators most of the time because either a random teacher will find me in the generator room or they see me through a wall and end my existence. I mean, there's a third outcome and it's the fact that they get fixed rather quickly to the point I question why I even bothered. You're awarded for being first in the generator room and being lucky that nobody hurls a razor blade at the back of your skull. Either way, blackouts are just something I'm conflicted about, but also something that I can't properly formulate an opinion as of the current moment. Now, this is a topic that likely has the community divided. The main issue at hand is pretty much that the students tend to just hide and not do anything. Now, let me put this in such a way that I won't get executed. You get punished for trying to make your experience less boring. You're punished for trying to have fun. If you want to play as a teacher or maybe even Alice, but also don't want to hide in a corner 24/7, you are more likely to die, which reduces the likelihood of you becoming either, obviously referring to the fact that you would barely get any teacher or Alice chance. Compare that to simply hiding. While it's in fact boring as hell, you are more likely to actually become a teacher because you would get more teacher and or Alice chance. Books? No reason for those. Most of the time there's just someone hogging it all or camping the classroom even before the night starts. Even then, you yourself can grab a quick book and then hide. There, you have a guaranteed teacher chance or something. I don't even know anymore. Let's also not forget to mention the Untouchable quest and also the Survive Alice Phase 2 night quest. Alright, before I forget, we also have the Attendance quest, which is literally just AFK for a few rounds quest. I might be stretching it a bit too much, but I just find these quests a bit boring since you quite literally can just AFK and the quest will essentially auto-complete itself. Anyways, that's all I have to say about these ones. Let's just move on to the actual video. Which, if I ever see these, I'm instantly refreshing it. Which, while these quests can be obtained as any role, since you're likely playing as a student for the majority of the time, the best way to not get hit or get killed is to literally hide in a secluded part of the map and hope a teacher doesn't hit or kill you. It's quite literally the best way and guaranteed method to ensure you complete the quest. And the best counter you can literally do to failure mode Miss Circle is hide, which obviously drains her failure mode bar, leading it to end. It ends when barely anyone is found and killed, you know. You might argue that the Polaroid camera is a better counter, but the main issue with the camera is the fact that it doesn't actually stun teachers. They can still move and attack, and in failure mode's case, they can still kill you if you're in range. And the fact that it does insta-kill damage, you're dead, bitch.
Rocket launcher.
I'm pretty sure that I've gotten the main point across already, that student gameplay is boring. But now let's actually talk about possible ideas in order to fix and improve student gameplay. Now, I obviously cannot guarantee that these ideas are good or 100% perfect, and I'm also not a balancing type of person. But either way, let's talk about student objectives. There's no outright quote-unquote way to fix hiding since it's still somewhat of a gameplay element in a way, but there is most definitely a way to reduce it and incentivize students to do more interesting and actually fun stuff. I'm conflicted about the way I'm proposing this idea, but here we go. Let's say we add an objective system that could be more based on school-related stuff. Unlike Delta Shard quests, which mostly revolve around gameplay-related things like playing 6 rounds, maybe you are given 2 or 3 objectives that give you... What do you get? Considering the earlier points that I made, it should give you points for doing so, which should help ease how annoying it is to get points as a student, especially without the Star Student or VIP Game Pass. With that being said, the more objectives that you do should result in more teacher or Alice chance that's possibly rewarded to you. Like, think of it like you were the most active and maybe skilled player, therefore you are heavily rewarded. But what if you die? Well, the objectives should obviously not disappear. This is an important thing that I need to point out, because if a student objective literally went kapoof, then it just becomes the current boring gameplay. So you can do objectives even if you die, and this obviously needs some sort of penalty, that being reduced rewards or no Alice chance at all. I mean, a teacher and Alice chance obviously. An extra idea I am going to propose, but I'm not entirely sure if people would agree with me on, is you actually get 2 objectives at the start of the round, but around the 1 minute to 30 second mark, if you haven't died yet, and if you have completed the previous 2 objectives, you will be given your 3rd and final objective. This is to make students, decide if they wish to pursue their 3rd objective for more rewards, or just stand still in their corner for the remainder of the round. But the main catch is, the 3rd objective would give you teacher and Alice chances. Yes, I did say earlier that the other objectives would give you teacher Alice chance, but this is mostly trying to think of a different approach with the third objective, if you know what I mean. But either way, you get teacher and Alice chances, which hopefully as a result would make people wanna venture out more and like risk take. I don't know. So, FPES is said to be inspired by the Rake Remastered. And while there's still some elements of that here and there, one specific thing that could be added would be collectible test papers. In the Rake Remastered, you are able to collect scrap metal, which can be sold for a few points, but what if this feature were to be translated into a school setting, where it's test papers instead of scrap metal? Similarly to the Rake Remastered and how scrap metal works in that game, there are different levels of the test papers, each ranging from a D grade to an A plus grade test paper, and each gives their own respective amounts of points. Unlike the Rake Remastered, however, something that I think would be cool or interesting is if you drop your test papers upon death, so you can still collect them, hopefully making the grind for points slightly less annoying even when you die. In terms of the spawn locations of these test papers, I guess it would be like in the hallways, literally anywhere but secluded areas of the map, because people will just go to the secluded area, hide there in the entire round, wait for test papers to spawn in and like stay there, something like that. That's what I'm trying to get at. Anyways, on to the next part. Gamemodes is actually an idea being thrown around as of the current moment, and the ideas for the game modes that the developers have thought of apparently is permadeath, which means permanent death, last student standing, and last teacher standing. I see this as a step in the right direction, as it adds more variety and more interesting events in the game, other than the already existing Blackouts and Alice Nights, which is just some weird form of rage bait against the student population. Now, you can pause the video and check the list for other ideas for future updates, but I mainly want to shift focus on something else, but remember this list for later. So, a mini idea that I want to throw around for now is the idea of round modifiers, inspired from Evade. The general idea is that unlike Blackouts, they persist during the entire duration of the round. The reward amount of points and delta shards are also increased a bit by their respective amounts. Oh, and also these could happen during game modes as well, so that it adds some randomness and, I don't know, variety to it. That's pretty much about it for round modifiers though, since they're just a pretty simple idea, but it should be pretty effective. I don't know really. Alright, gonna have to move the student role stuff to another video, unfortunately, for the sake of time. The general idea that I'm going for though is that it'll be more somewhat inspired from Die of Death instead of something like Dead by Daylight. Here's a sneak peek that I'll show for that video if I ever actually finish it. Now, to address the pine tree in the classroom,
What?
the Student Overhaul update. We don't know much about it other than 5 new items, and that the door cooldown will also be reduced to make up for all of the new options that students will apparently have. Now, whether or not nickname is referring to possible student roles or just the new items, I'm interested either way, but I'm also a bit concerned. While I do like the idea of student roles and all, you also have to consider the amount of players that are in the server, stacking the roles and whatnot, and also the entire balancing end of it as well. And well, items are just something I'm generally skeptical about, since new items might not be enough to interest most players, and as stated earlier, some players tend to not even use items, and well, also balancing the items as well to not be too annoying or too weak against teachers or something. Although none of these items are said to be shop items, and also none of them are going to deal any direct damage. Now, Nickname did mention that 2 of these items can be found in the map, and the other 3 will probably end up being connected or tie in with the current quest system. This is a step in the right direction, but my concern now is how effective or useful will these items be? While sure they're items that can be found in the map, if they end up being not that beneficial to themselves or for students in general, then people will likely barely use them. Though, now that you mention that one of the items is used against Miss Circle, I'm hoping here that it's an item used to counter failure mode in some way, and currently the main counter of failure mode is literally hiding. There are also other items of interest, but the point still stands that if they're not really that effective or something, then people won't really find a use for them, if that even makes sense anymore. Other than items though, there hasn't really been anything else that has been brought up that we know of, and well, new items probably won't help too much in the long run. Other than the effectivity of these items, another concern that I have is how different will student gameplay be as a whole after this update, and will it actually become somewhat interesting? Because like I said, I don't think items will exactly help that much in the long run, and while the things I suggested might sound engaging, there are obviously flaws that come with that as well. Speaking of which, you remember that list? Yeah, I'm gonna get back to that right now. Gamemodes, experience, which would imply a leveling system obviously, milestone skins, and also emotes are mainly the things that I see which could keep players entertained and also interested in replaying the game, i.e. replayability. While that might interest players for a good while, the overall student gameplay loop still needs to get changed to be engaging enough so that players don't die of boredom. You can only add skins for so long until the game eventually starts getting compared to Fortnite with how many reference skins there are. With all of this being said, the general idea still remains. Student gameplay needs changes, and I hope that the Student Overhaul update will be able to help with that and improve it. Some parts of the video may or may not have been slightly or heavily biased, but it's more or less my opinion for a long time now and how student gameplay currently plays as a whole. And also how it's not really the most fun and engaging thing in the world. This video has been on something on my mind for the past couple of months, and I've only actually gotten time to actually work and edit it. I procrastinated so much to the point where the Student Overhaul update is an actually planned update now. Once again, please, for the love of God, do not send anyone hate or harassment. That will literally solve absolutely nothing. I made this video in the hopes that the developers take note of some of the things I said in this video and hopefully results in FPES at least getting better student gameplay as a result. Only time will tell.